let's move on to the NFL playoffs. We got wild card weekend, Drew. So I'm gonna give you some teams with the spread. You're gonna tell me who you got and what who's covering and all that good stuff. You know how to play this game. All right, Chargers. Yeah, you actually taught me how to play this game, so that's why I kind of say that tongue in cheek. Chargers at Texans. I think, yeah, Chargers at Texas. Chargers are favored by 3 points. Mm-hmm. Who do you got, Drew?
This is a tough one, but I actually would take the Chargers. Yeah, I would take the Chargers outright, if I'm being honest. I have been kind of down on Houston this year. I had a lot of shares, funny enough, in fantasy of Justin Herbert and CJ Stroud. Mm-hmm. And I actually, in one of my leagues, I had both of them. And for the last 10 games, I've had Herbert as my starting quarterback. CJ Stroud has not been... He's not been like he hasn't gotten worse, but he hasn't gotten better. And you could call it a sophomore slump, whatever. I'm not saying anything about... I'm not ready to say CJ Stroud is a bust now. I'm not there. I'm just saying CJ Stroud hasn't done what he was doing last year. He's actually, in my opinion, been basically the same. And I would probably venture to say maybe a little worse than he was last year. And so for me, when you talk about, you got Joe Mixon on the team, you got a good receiving core in Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins and all these other guys. And then you talk about the Houston Texans defense, which is pretty good. But you look at the way the Chargers have been playing, they've been playing... I think they've flown under the radar most of this year because of everything else that's been going on, like Pittsburgh being the surprise team, Tampa Bay being a surprise team, Washington being a surprise team, Green Bay being good again. Like a lot of these teams are taking focus away from the Chargers, and the Chargers are slow and steady, but they're still going and they're still being a really good team. And it kills me to say, but I know it's in Houston. But for me, I would take the Chargers and the points.
Yeah, I'd take the Chargers and I'd pick them to go over on the points as well. And a lot of it is exactly what you said. For the Texans with CJ Stroud, earlier this year, they seemed to be really good. Then they've kind of tailed off like in the last half of the year. I think what I'm concerned with is just like what you always point out year after year. Once a team has film on you now, they can figure out how to take away your best weapon and how to minimize anything that you do to them, which CJ Stroud, not that he's not a good quarterback, it won't still be a successful quarterback. Just in year 2, with teams now having film on him, are now able to plan against him. It does not help, though, I will say, to have an injury to the offensive line. So, of course, he's giving up a lot of sacks. You lose Stephon Diggs in the year to an injury. You lose Tank Dell to an injury. This team has been injury plagued. Let's be honest about that on both sides of the ball. So that does hinder a lot. But Houston kind of got in by default because they were the best team in arguably one of the worst divisions. And I think the Chargers come in focused. This is a team that most of these players have been on a playoff run before. Jim Harbaugh knows how to get these guys ready for deep playoff runs, which he's done when he was with the Niners. So I definitely think the Chargers here are favorite regardless of Houston. I think that they are favored to go, and I do have them going over on the points as well.
Yeah. I would also say the way I always look at things, I've said this for years, I look at head coach, quarterback, defense.
Right.
If you have 2 out of 3, I'm going to pick you all the time. You look at head coach, I would pick Jim Harbaugh. You look at the quarterback, I would go Justin Herbert. Even last year, I would still pick Justin Herbert. And then you look at this year, I would say the Texans defense I trust more than the Chargers defense, but 2 out of 3, I'm going to lean the Chargers.
Yeah, I'd agree. All right, moving on to the next game. Steelers going to Baltimore to play in the wild card in the AFC. This is a AFC North divisional matchup. Again, this is the third time these teams will meet. And Baltimore opens, well, I don't think about open, but the spread has gone to 9.5 points, Drew.
Yeah.
Who are you taking, and what's your cover here?
Yeah, Baltimore opened at 8.5 favorite, and now it's to 9.5, which is like still. This is crazy because this is a division rivalry game. Those are never 10-point blowouts. I'm sorry. It's not. So I think the Ravens are going to win. I think overall they're the better team. I would probably take Mike Tomlin as the head coach, to be honest. I like Mike Tomlin a lot more, but if I'm going to pick defense and quarterback, I'm looking at Lamar Jackson as the quarterback. I would take over majority of the league. And then the defense this year, I think the Ravens, this year has been a little bit better in my opinion. Obviously feeding off the offense, but still that's got to count for something. So for me, I'm picking the Ravens, but I'm going to have the Steelers to cover. I don't think this is going to be a 10-point blowout. I don't think Russell Wilson is going to have this like awesome game, but I also don't think the Ravens are just going to be dropping 40. I don't see that happening. The Steelers have too good of a defense for you to drop 40 on them. And also the Ravens are going to be like, let's just run the football.
Drew Code Sports Talk is supported by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is your go-to app for tickets, making it super easy to find the best deals. They even rate each ticket deal on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting your money's worth. And as a special thank you to our listeners, we've got a promo code just for you. Use Drew Code at checkout to get $20 off your first order. That's $20 off your first purchase, whether it's for the game that you've been dying to see or that concert that everybody is talking about. Head over to SeatGeek now, find your perfect seat, and use Drew Code for $20 off your first order. SeatGeek, get your tickets to the action today.
Yeah. Until they prove that they can stop it, then we have Lamar Jackson. So see what you can do, Pittsburgh. So with Pittsburgh, they still have a few holes that they need to fill before I really feel comfortable with picking them to win anything right now. They're a good team. I'm not hating on them, but against the Ravens, this is just a bad matchup for them right now. And so, I would pick the Ravens to win, but Steelers to cover.
I'm going to pick the Ravens. I'm going to pick the Ravens to go over on the points, though. And the reason why is, yes.
Okay.
And the reason why is because, yes, you're right. It's a divisional rival. It's a wild card weekend. You know, both these teams have playoff experience, so they're no stranger to this. But Baltimore Ravens ended the season on a hot note, and now the Steelers ended the season on no momentum going into the playoffs and really haven't done anything in the last 5 or 6 weeks. And so Baltimore has the weapons. Granted, they're not going to have Zay Flowers, but they have Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, and they're going to have Rashad Bateman. So they're going to have other options for Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, I think, not only did he have a great regular season, but I do think that in this wild card, it'll be kind of like one of those games for him to let the NFL know that I'm not just, good in the regular season. I'm even better in the playoffs, because he does have a reputation that he needs to overcome with when the playoffs start. He just doesn't seem to show up. So I think this game is going to be a statement from the Ravens. And also too, I just don't know what the Steelers offensively can do to match the firepower that the Ravens have. Even if this turns into a shootout, Steelers don't really have very many offensive weapons to combat and go back and forth with the Ravens. And I think what's going to happen is Derrick Henry is going to run the ball 30 plus times down the throat of the Steelers, and he's going to absolutely walk all over them. Lamar Jackson, a couple of play actions and some throws here is going to be very efficient. And the Steelers, I just think they probably caught fire too early, cooled off, and the Steelers are an average team at best. They just so happen to be in the playoffs. The next matchup, Drew, is Broncos going to Buffalo. Buffalo opens at 9-point favorites. Who do you got?
Oh God, I hate the big ones. I really do, but I can see how the Bills would get the over. I'm gonna take the Bills and the points. I think the Bills are a well-oiled machine right now. I think Denver is good, but I think Bo Nix is going to get suffocated by that Bills defense. Okay. I do think the weather is going to play a factor. I know people are going to be like, well, Denver plays in a cold place. I know, but Buffalo's cold and Denver's cold is different. Denver's cold is more just elevation, where Buffalo's is just, I don't know how else to others say than shithole. So, like it's just cold. That's all it is. It's just freezing. And so, I mean, I don't think there's going to be snow. I think they said there was not going to be, or if there was, it was going to be like very light. So it's not going to be that big. But I do think that is a huge difference,
right?
From Buffalo to Colorado. And I've never been to both, so I could be completely wrong. But anyway, I still think the Bills are too good of a team right now. I think Bo Nix is going to show what kind of rookie quarterback he is. I think he's going to be a rookie quarterback in this game. I like Bo Nix. I think he's really good. And I was hoping the Raiders were going to draft him.
Yeah.
But I think this Bills defense is gonna be the winner here. I am not even looking at Josh Allen. And you look at the head coaches, I would take Sean Payton, but then we were talking about quarterback. I would take Josh Allen again. Similar to Lamar Jackson, probably take him over majority of the league.
Yeah.
And then defensive, I would lean the Bills. Even though the Broncos have had a really good defensive year this year, I would lean the Bills.
So nothing tickles me more than two California kids explain what the difference between two snowy places are when we don't go.
Dude, it's like snow. 46 over here.
I know, it's cold. So nothing's funnier than us trying to explain the weather differences. But I think what I would say is I would take the Bills, but I'm going to have the Broncos cover though. So I'm kind of going a little opposite of the Ravens and the Steelers matchup. And the reason why is because I do think that the Broncos being from a cold weather city is not going to really skew anything that crazy. Like Denver is in a cold area. Buffalo's a cold area. It's known for that. But I think what the difference is Bo Nix as a rookie, he doesn't have the experience. He's probably going to come out really tight and, he's going to make mistakes. And the Buffalo Bills, this is probably their fourth or fifth year that they're really going into the wild card or the playoff situation. And they have a lot to play for. They have more momentum going into this. And I just trust the Bills, that experience, Sean McDermott getting these guys ready to go. I trust that more than the Broncos. But I do think the Broncos have found somewhat of an offensive identity. I do feel like their defense is a lot better than what they get credit for. And I do think that pressure defense can get home to Josh Allen and kind of neutralize a little bit of his running factor. But I just think that the Buffalo Bills are more experienced. They actually have more firepower than people would believe just with Amari Cooper, rookie running, the rookie wide receivers that they have.
I forgot about Amari Cooper.
Yeah, James Cook in the backfield, that offensive line. I think Buffalo will win this, but I do think the Broncos will hold close, so that's why I have them covering.